How's it going, everybody? You know who it is. My name is Sanwoo, and in today's video we are going to take a look at the wonderful Endorphin.es Total Recall module, which is a 6 HP performance-oriented macro and preset module that can affect many things in your rack at once. So let's check it out. In this patch I'm going to use the Endorphin.es Total Recall in meta mode, and I'm going to use it as a kind of preset manager / step sequencer in order to modulate the CV inputs of the data bender. So let's hook these two up together. CV output number 1 goes into the bend input. CV output number 2 goes into the, let's say, corrupt input. And CV output number 3 goes into the repeats input. And now I'm going to play my audio and show you what the Total Recall can do. I'm going to turn the data bender to fully wet. And now I can use these 3 potentiometers in order to affect the CV inputs. So with this one, I'm controlling the number of repeats. With this one, I'm controlling the corrupt parameter, and with this one, the bend parameter. Of course, I could do all of this so far on the knobs here itself. However, I can take this setting of 3 different knob positions now and save that as a preset simply by clicking this button here. And you see this light moved one further, and now my parameters have changed, and that's because I have already created a preset on this next step, so to speak. Let's change it a little bit. So this way I could now save 8 different presets by cycling through this. So let's just save a few more. And as you can see, now I can easily cycle through these presets. But the cool thing is, not only can I do this by hand, but I can also use this input down here in order to cycle through these presets. So now I'm going to send a clock signal into this input. And you can see it cycles automatically. So now it basically functions as an 8-step step sequencer that has different presets saved in it. What I can also do is I can set this to accept smooth CV values by pressing and holding. And now I can simply say plug this in here. And as you can see, I can scan through these presets with a CV value. So now I could even select whichever preset I want at any given time using CV voltages. For example, I could sequence this with another CV sequencers sending CV into this input. But for now, let's put this into the simple triggered mode in which we go through the presets one by one, step by step. And now we're going to send a clock signal into it. Let's turn this mix up. And as you can see, we go through the presets one by one. And let's introduce some reverb just for the fun of it. Now let's try the other mode again, where we introduce CV voltages into this. And maybe send an LFO into it. That could be quite crazy. And without the smoothing active. Yeah, so with this small module, we can really easily introduce a lot of movement into a patch that we can completely control. We can make our own presets and really dial in the right values, and then either scrub through them with CV voltages or just simply send a gate to it and go one by one. And since it saves the values every time you move from one step to the next or from one preset to the next, you can also have this sequence running and then just turn the knobs while it's doing so. And it will save these values into it. And you can also have bipolar CV values. I don't know what difference this will make in this patch. Not really much, but it's there anyway. So you can see, even if you don't want to painstakingly dial in every single value for every single preset, you can just quickly do some randomization if that works for you. In this patch, I'm going to use Total Recall's macro mode in order to have a master performance knob in order to activate a few effects at once. We can get into the macro mode by pressing and holding until we see one flash and another flash. Now we can cycle through 3 different lights, 1, 2, 3, and these 3 lights represent the 3 separate CV outputs. And here, this allows us now to set different maximum and minimum values for each of the outputs. That means we can have different values for each of the outputs and then scrub through them using our master potentiometer. So let's do that. First, I'm going to use CV out number 3, as we are already on CV out number 3 as indicated by the light. And I'm going to use this in order to turn the reverb tail on the Ghost module up. So let me play the sequence, set my maximum value, and the reverb will increase as I turn this up. I also got to set my minimum value. So now minimum value is 0, maximum value all the way up. Of course, we can dial it in more intricately. And as I turn this up, we're getting more and more reverb. Now, as this reverb is going up, I would like to mute the input of the Ghost module so we don't feed more audio into the reverb. So let's do that. I'm going to use CV out number 1 and put that into the VCA of Ghost. and I'm going to set my minimum value to all the way up and my maximum value all the way down. So it's inverted now, while light number 3 or CV output number 3 is going up, number 1 is going down, and the other way around. So let's test this out. Yeah, wonderful. Works as intended. All right, now let's use the last CV output, number 2, and also increase the repeats of my delay on the ghost. Actually, before I do anything else, I'm gonna mode the signal of CV number 2 in order to plug that not only into the repeats of the delay, but also the dry-wet mix, maybe. Let's test this out. And now we can do swells using just this single knob. So you can see the Total Recall can be very useful if you want to have your own custom knob movements that affect different things in your setup all at once and having them really dialed in and defined to your liking. And lastly, let's get to the CV inputs right here. I'm going to send an LFO to CV in, and as we are on light number 1, that means in macro mode, we are concerned with whatever is happening on CV input 1 and CV output number 1. And as you can see, this light is flashing, indicating that there is an LFO movement happening. What I'm going to do is I'm going to plug this into the delay time of the ghost module. First, I'm going to turn the delay off. This is the normal sound again. If the delay is on, you can hear the delay is going crazy now. So what we can do now is, again, we can set the minimum and maximum value for this CV output. And how this works now is these will function as attenuators for the LFO signal that is coming into the CV input number 1. So with the maximum value, I can see how far do I want to go with this LFO, how far do I want this to be affecting my delay. So I can turn the maximum value down, and now there's no LFO happening. Let's set the maximum value somewhere here. Maybe here. And then the minimum value I'm going to set to 0. So I can go from this to this. All right, now let's put another LFO into CV input number 2 and move over to CV input number 2. Let's turn this to maximum in order to see what we got going on with our LFOs. If I turn CV input maximum value up, you can now see the LFO. And maybe we're gonna output this to the corrupt input of DataBender. Actually, I'm going to plug this into the mix input of DataBender. So as I turn this up, we're going to get some signal from whatever DataBender is doing. So let's play this first. We turn the performance macro down. So we got nothing special going on. And as we turn it up, that's all right. Let's use one more parameter, the CV out number 3. And with this one, we are gonna turn the repeats of data bender down. In this case, I'm not gonna use the CV input, so I'm just setting minimum and maximum values. So let's go to CV out number 3. And I'm gonna turn the repeats down. So I want to set my maximum value lower than the minimum value. Hopefully that'll work out. And with a little bit of adjustment, this is what came out of it. Feeding CV voltages like LFOs, for example, in these inputs and then combining them with macro or performance mode really opens up this module and makes it even more interesting than it already is. It certainly is a very performative tool, and it can find its home in a small system or maybe multiple of its kind in a larger system. It's just super fun to use and to dial in your own multi-effects affecting multiple modules in your system at once. And with that being said, if you want to buy one, check out the affiliate link in the description and comment section. Other than that, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, I would appreciate a like, a comment down below, subscribe to the channel, and ring the bell so you don't miss the next video. I hope to see you in the next one. Until then, have a wonderful time. Peace.